What's up, guys? This is Sean from Srkcycles, and I finally decided that I'm gonna sell my Corvette. Let me tell you guys all about it. This is a 2010 Grand Sport Corvette. This is not the first time that they did a Grand Sport, but this is the first time in about a decade that they brought back the Grand Sport. So in 2010 was the first year that they brought back the Grand Sport. And to explain the differences between the models, you have the base Corvette, then you have the Grand Sport, then you have the Z06, then you have the ZR1. So the Grand Sport's gonna look more like the ZR1 or the Z06 because it's got the wide body package and the bigger wheels. It's got the same motor as the base and the same frame as the base. So for a lot of people, when you're considering the Z06 sitting at 505 horsepower for the C6, if that's not enough power for you, even though this came with around 420 horsepower, the one that's easier to modify and handles modification better is going to be the Grand Sport. For most people, said it handled the bigger power better than the 427 aluminum block. So this has the same wide body as the Z06 and the ZR1, but shares the same 6.2 motor and frame as the base Corvette. So when these cars first came out, the Z06 was the obvious big powerhouse with 505 horsepower to the crank. And while the 427 Z06 engine was a great motor, if you were content with just around 505 horsepower, but if you weren't and you wanted big power, then the 6.2 liter was definitely the way to go. So as the saying goes, there's no replacement for displacement. Well, here's your replacement. An A&A supercharger kit. This has a Paxton supercharger, a very large intercooler, and a mild cam, making this thing put out around 648 horsepower to the wheels, which means it's probably around 750 to the crank, which means that a car that weighs about 3,200 pounds is gonna destroy any HELLCAT out there, any Z06 out there. It just, power to weight ratio is insane. Now, since I bought the car like this, I bought the car completely modified like this, I wanted to make sure that it was tuned properly, that the car was gonna run safe and it was not gonna give me any issues with it. So we took it to a local shop, Race Crafters. They specialize in modifying cars and Corvettes, and they put on the dyno. They also dyno tuned it, and they assured me that this thing was tuned properly because of the modifications, that this is still a reliable car. Now, this does not come stock, but it has these cool carbon fiber accents on the lower body, and then also this really nice carbon fiber wing. When I got this, the front tires were pretty much shot. They had just replaced the rear tires, so we put a matching set of Pilot Super Sports on here. These only have probably less than 500 miles on them, and these are probably one of the stickiest tires you can get. That's still, you can drive every day. Now, something that you only get on the base or the Grand Sport that you won't get on the Z06 or the ZR1 is the removable top. This top, 2 latches, pops off. It's actually, I think, some type of polycarbonate. It's super light, pops off, and then it's got a little spot that it sits right into the trunk. So it's not a convertible, but it is a target top. So this thing's got the glass top, it's got the 6-speed transmission, it's got the heads-up display, it's got the navigation, it's got dual power seats, it's got heated seats. It's a pretty loaded up model of the Corvette. So you get all the luxuries of driving a nice car with heated seats and traction control, and it's a fairly comfortable ride, but then you have just the full impact of a full-blown race car right there at your fingertips. It makes it the perfect combination. A whole lot more realistic to drive around than that. And if you're wondering how we attempt to keep the 650 horsepower to the wheels on the ground, with these giant Michelin 345 3019s. They do a pretty good job at it, but you can still pretty much cut this thing loose at will anytime you want to. Now, I can talk about this car all day long. Let's do what this car is made for. Let's go take it for a spin. So this thing's got 36,511 miles. Pretty low miles for a 2010. I mean, that makes it 9 years old. I don't know, with 3,000 miles a year. So it's pretty low. Never really had any issues with it. The only issue I had, we had to change the belt, the supercharger belt. And then while I got that done, I had them service the supercharger and everything. My last car was a 96 Dodge Viper. This thing was the Dodge Viper is fairly crude car, tons of fun. But this thing just had every plus the Viper had, speed and performance, but this had the luxury with it. It had, the AC and the heat, and it all worked well, and power, everything. It was a big step up for me. And it was also about 250 horsepower to the wheels faster than the Dodge Viper. Something I also noticed was how smooth the shifting was. It kind of reminded me of like a BMW would shift. It was precise, but it was soft. I'm 6'2". I fit in here pretty good. Depending on how I'm driving, I might have the seat the whole way back. But you know, I got enough room. I would consider taking a big trip on a car like this, or this exact car. Now, something you got to keep in mind when it comes to these high horsepower performance vehicles is the cars keep on getting more powerful, but the people who are buying them are not necessarily more skilled than what they were, you know, 30-year-old guy was, you know, 30, 40 years ago. So they have to add these driver's aids. They have to have traction control that's automatically on. You got to press a button to turn it off. They have to add, you know, stability control and stuff like that. And especially when the car is this modified, you know, a 650 horsepower to the wheels, you know, a lot of people would get in trouble with it. But, you know, you can leave that on. You can learn what the car does. It will spin a little bit before it kicks on. It'll kick it a little bit sideways. But it is kind of a nanny system that is going to save you in the car ultimately. Now this is third gear. It is a 6-speed, so when you're, you know, cruising on the highway and you pop it in 6th gear, you know, we're at 70 miles an hour at 1,500 RPMs. The car can actually get pretty decent fuel economy that way. Let me check, see what it does. Instant fuel economy of right now 20, 21. What's nice about the Corvettes is parts are very readily available. They're not that expensive compared to other cars that perform in the same category. They're actually it's probably one of the cheapest cars to go fast in and continue to go fast in. If you have to replace the engine, it's not going to cost you $30,000 to do. So this car does have heads-up display. It's got different modes for it that you can change. It's got track mode, street mode, track mode 1, track mode 2, and then you can actually move it up. You can scroll it up and you can scroll it down depending on how high you want it. All the buttons work. This thing does have OnStar that you can set up. I'm not sure how that works. It also has Bluetooth that you can connect your phone to the stereo via Bluetooth. So when you answer your phone calls, you can answer them, you know, just hands-free. Now, what sucks about that system is that it's only made to connect it to talking on your phone. You can't, like, you know, use Bluetooth to send Pandora or anything to the radio. I think they have modules that you can plug in the back that you can connect them so you can listen to your music through the radio. What this one has is it has an Apple port that's in the glove box that's been connected through the XM port. So if I want to play, I stick my phone in the glove box, I plug it in, and then I press the XM1, and then anything on my phone is connected right to the radio. And you can probably convert that to you know, USB-C or whatever else you want to do. It's got a great sound to it. It's not obnoxiously loud. It is obnoxiously loud from the outside. From the inside, it's actually pretty decent. The predicament I was in trying to decide whether I want to sell it or not was how much horsepower you have for that kind of money. So I'm going to list it for, I think, $32,000. $32,000. This is a lot of power. It's a good-looking car. It's low miles, a clean title. You're getting a lot for only $32,000. So I got to think, man, can I really replace it for that much money? I've got other cars, so I'm just going to focus on them. I might buy. I'll buy something different sometime later in the future. But ultimately, we just need we're running out of space at the shop for motorcycles, so we need more space. I'm going to sell this. I'm going to sell the Cadillac. I can always buy something else in the future. The car is very fast. It's probably one of the fastest cars I've ever owned. It is a lot of fun, but I kind of go with the 95.5 driving method when it comes to cars like this. 95% of the time, you just drive it like a normal car. This is what's going to keep you from getting tickets. You can drive it. I mean, I just got passed by a ugly Honda Ridgeline. That's fine. I don't gotta be, you know, racing everybody all the time. But then that little 5%, you know, let people know that you've got a fast car. Occasionally, at proper moments, you know what I mean. Never exceed the speed limit. That's kind of how I view things. That's the best way if you want to keep your cars nice. You want to keep them. You want to not get tickets and not lose your license. I think that's the best way to do it. This does have navigation, but when you want to change and put a CD in there, you just press this button right here. Flips out. DVD is for the nav disc, and CD is, of course, from CD. This thing's actually pretty, it's pretty solid. You think it might be kind of flimsy, but it's pretty solid. Now, it does have a proximity key, which is really nice. All you have to do is keep this thing in your pocket. As long as this is in your pocket or in the car, the thing's gonna fire up. It is a push button start. There is a little, this does fold out, and there's a little key that pops out of here. And I think you would use that for the trunk to pop that open, because there's no keyholes in the side of the door. All right, guys, that wraps it up. This car could be yours, and if no one buys it, it's gonna continue to be mine. I'm gonna continue having fun with it. So we'll see you guys later. I'm doing another video, just going over all the whole car with a fine-tooth comb. You'll see any minor imperfections, any minor flaws. I would, at the way this thing sits right now, I would drive this thing anywhere. But there are some little tiny minor flaws, of course there are, because it's got 35,000 miles and it's a 9-year-old car. So if you're interested, check out that video too. We'll see you guys later.